Before the story begins, I'd like to ask you to subscribe and like. This will help the channel grow. The Last Hole in the Ice. Winter Detective Story. Lake Carson froze earlier than expected that year. By mid-December, the ice was thick enough to hold trucks, tents, entire villages of temporary shelters erected for the annual Winter Pike Championship, a tradition older than the town itself. Once a year, fishermen from across the region gathered on the lake, drilling perfect circles into the ice, lowering their lines into black, unmoving water, trusting the cold to be solid, predictable, honest. It never was. Detective Aaron Holt arrived just after sunrise, the sky still bruised purple and gray, snow crunching beneath his boots like brittle glass. Police tape fluttered weakly in the wind, marking a single fishing hole near the lake center. Around it, the ice was stained dark, not with blood, but with water that had refrozen too quickly, too unevenly. Something had gone through, or been forced down. The body had been pulled out hours earlier. Male. Late 40s. Identified as Victor Hale, chairman of the Winter Pike Committee, sponsor of half the town's winter economy. Found beneath the ice, lungs filled with lake water, skull fractured. Official cause, drowning. Unofficial problem. Hale was an expert ice fisherman. He knew thickness, pressure, warning sounds. He would never step where ice was unsafe. And yet the hole was perfect. Too perfect. Nearby, dozens of competitors pretended not to stare as they packed equipment, their breath forming identical clouds. Tents flapped. Augers were hauled away. The lake wanted to return to normal. Aaron crouched near the hole, gloved fingers brushing the ice edge. The cut was clean. Mechanical, not cracked by weight, not broken by accident. Drilled? Who drilled this? He asked. No one answered. The wind picked up, carrying the low moan of ice shifting beneath its frozen skin. Aaron stood slowly. This lake had opened once, and someone hadn't come back up. By noon, the tournament was officially canceled. Unofficially, everyone stayed. Lake Carson was more than a fishing spot, it was leverage. Permits, sponsorships, winter tourism money. Victor Hale had controlled all of it, smiling through charity banquets, while quietly deciding who froze and who prospered. Aaron met resistance immediately. The tournament board lawyer arrived before the coroner finished his report. Town officials insisted on an accident narrative. Local news framed Hale as a tragic victim of unpredictable ice behavior. Aaron didn't argue. He listened. In Hale's temporary command tent, heat lamps hummed over folding tables cluttered with documents. Entry logs. Drill assignments. Safety maps marking approved zones. One zone stood out. Sector C-17, Hale's private fishing area. Only 3 people were authorized to drill there. One was dead. The second was Mara Aline, logistics coordinator, former ice rescue volunteer. The third was Caleb Rowan, sponsor liaison, Hale's protege, rumored successor. Mara denied drilling the hole. Caleb claimed he hadn't arrived until after dawn. Aaron requested drill inspections. One auger showed microscopic metal scoring inconsistent with factory blades, modified to cut faster, deeper, quieter. Designed to punch through ice in seconds. Designed by someone who knew ice very well. Autopsy results arrived by evening. Hale had been unconscious before entering the water. A blow to the back of the head. Drowning wasn't the cause. It was the disposal. As darkness fell, generators flickered across the lake. Tents glowed like scattered stars. Somewhere beneath the ice, currents continued their slow, silent movement. Aaron stood alone at the hole again. Ice does not collapse politely. It is taut. By the 3rd week of January, cold had become a currency. In Frosthaven, people no longer asked, "How are you?" They asked, "Do you have heat? Windows glowed unevenly across the city blocks. Some apartments lit like aquariums, others dark and sealed, their occupants bundled in coats indoors as if the walls themselves had failed them. Detective Calder Rook stood on the fire escape outside Building 19, breath fogging the air, notebook tucked under his arm. Below him, an illegal heat line snaked from a municipal conduit into the building's basement. Someone had cracked the city's thermal grid again. But this time, someone had died for it. The victim lay inside the boiler room, slumped against a rusted tank. Male. Late 40s. Fingers blackened by frostbite. No visible wounds, just the quiet violence of exposure. The heat had been cut deliberately. The man's name was Tomas Brell, former city auditor. Fired 2 years ago for budget irregularities. The kind of phrase that meant he knew too much. Calder crouched beside the body, noticing something out of place. Brell's coat pockets were empty. Wallet gone. Phone gone. But his gloves remained, carefully placed on the boiler pipe, as if set down rather than dropped. A message, not a mistake. Upstairs, residents whispered. They spoke of a market that didn't exist on maps. A place where heat credits, generator access codes, and ration exemptions were traded like contraband. No money exchanged hands, only favors, silence, and names. They called it the Frost Market. Calder had heard the rumors before. Everyone had. But rumors didn't leave bodies behind boilers. At headquarters, analyst Mira Hale pulled up Brell's last known activity. He had requested archived thermal allocation reports, specifically from the week the city's auxiliary grid was quietly rerouted. The same week multiple low-income districts lost heat. Temporarily. Someone noticed, Mira said softly. And someone made sure he didn't finish noticing. Calder stared at the city map, blue zones of warmth surrounded by expanding white dead zones. Winter hadn't caused this. Someone was managing it. Markets need meeting places. The Frost Market met beneath the city. Calder followed the lead 3 nights later, descending into a decommissioned pedestrian tunnel sealed after a collapse years ago. Officially, it was unsafe. Unofficially, it was warm, faintly, illegally warm. Generators hummed behind concrete walls. Strings of work lights illuminated makeshift stalls. Crates of space heaters, battery packs, ration cards, forged access permits. People moved quietly, faces hidden beneath scarves, breath visible despite the heat. This wasn't desperation anymore. It was organization. Calder moved through the crowd, recording faces, gestures, exchanges. He spotted city maintenance uniforms. A private security patch. Even a hospital administrator's badge. Flipped inward but not hidden enough. Then he saw her. Elena Frost. Not her real name, Calder was sure of that. She stood apart from the stalls, calm, gloved hands folded, watching everything without participating. When people approached her, they didn't bargain. They listened. Elena controlled distribution routes. Who froze and who didn't. Calder stepped closer and felt the shift immediately. Eyes turned, conversations thinned. Someone recognized him. He didn't reach for his badge. Didn't need to. Elena, he said quietly. People are dying. She studied him with open curiosity. People die every winter, detective. The city just pretends not to notice. You killed Tomas Brell. A flicker. Not guilt, calculation. He wasn't careful, she replied. Carelessness costs warmth. Before Calder could respond, the generators cut out. Darkness swallowed the tunnel. Panic rippled. Someone screamed. Someone ran. And in the chaos, Elena vanished, leaving behind a single object at Calder's feet, a city-issued thermal access key, stamped with an authorization level that shouldn't exist. By the time Detective Elias Crow returned to the Frost Market, The snow had begun to fall sideways. The old market district had always felt wrong at night. Rows of shuttered wooden stalls, iron hooks hanging empty, tarps snapping like quiet warnings in the wind. In winter, it became something else entirely. Sound died here. Footsteps vanished after a few seconds. Even the city lights seemed hesitant to reach between the roofs. Elias moved slowly, coat heavy with snow, breath fogging his scarf. The market was officially closed for the season, but that had never stopped anyone before, especially not now. Especially not after what he knew. The Frost Market wasn't just a black market that operated during winter shortages. It was a buffer. A place where people paid not to be noticed. Where stolen fuel, ration cards, counterfeit aid documents, and information passed hands, while the rest of the city froze and waited for spring. And now, it was connected to 3 disappearances. One vendor had vanished first, a quiet man who sold heaters far below cost. Then a city inspector. Then a social worker assigned to winter shelters. All gone within 10 days. No bodies. No ransom, just silence. Elias stopped at stall 19. The tarp was new. Too new. He lifted it slowly. Inside, the stall was immaculate. Shelves wiped clean. Crates stacked with military precision. On the back wall, a chalkboard listed prices, not in money, but favors. 2 weeks heat, 1 erase citation. Generator access, delayed inspection. Transit clearance, 1 forgotten file. This wasn't survival trade. This was administration. A sound shifted behind him. Elias turned, gun already raised. A woman stood at the far end of the aisle, face half hidden by a wool hood dusted with snow. She didn't run. She didn't reach for a weapon. She simply watched him, eyes steady. "You're late," she said. "I don't shop here," Elias replied. She smiled faintly. "Everyone does. Some just pay differently." She introduced herself as Mara Lynn. Officially, she managed seasonal logistics for emergency winter distribution. Unofficially, she managed delay. "Winter creates pressure," she said, as they walked between the stalls. "Pressure creates mistakes. We prevent those." "You kidnap people," Elias said. "We remove risks." She stopped walking. "The inspector was going to shut the shelters down," she continued calmly. "The social worker found falsified death certificates." "The vendor?" She shrugged. "He refused to raise prices." Elias felt something cold tighten in his chest. "Where are they?" Mara looked at the falling snow drifting through broken roof panels. "Winter doesn't waste resources," she said. That was when Elias heard it. A low hum beneath the wind. Generators. Hidden. Running. They found the basement beneath the market just before dawn. The entrance was disguised beneath a frozen drainage channel, iron grate welded shut and buried under weeks of snow. It took a pry bar, numb fingers, and anger to open it. Warm air rushed out like a confession. Below, the Frost Market revealed its final shape. Rows of cots. Portable heaters. Medical supplies. Food. Clean water. And people. The missing weren't dead. They were contained. The inspector sat wrapped in blankets, eyes hollow but alive. The social worker stared at the wall, lips moving silently. The vendor lay asleep, fur taped to his arm. "They were kept alive," Elias said quietly. "Of course," Mara replied behind him. "Dead people talk in different ways." Police flooded the site minutes later. The market filled with noise for the first time in years. Radios, booths, shouting voices echoing between stalls that had only ever heard whispers. Mara Lynn was arrested without resistance. So were 3 city officials. 2 contractors. 1 deputy mayor. The story unraveled fast after that. Emergency supplies diverted and resold. Shortages manufactured to inflate dependency. Shelter closures delayed or advanced based on profit. Winter turned into a system, predictable, exploitable, clean. By evening, the frost market was sealed. By morning, it was gone. The city dismantled it fast. Too fast. Trucks arrived before journalists. Snowplows erased paths. By noon, only smooth white ground remained, as if nothing had ever stood there. Elias stood alone at the edge of the square, watching flakes settle over tire tracks. Winter had been used as cover, but it had also preserved everything long enough for the truth to surface. Spring would come eventually, but some cold, he knew now, was deliberate. And it always waited.